Samantha Fox is proud to be what she calls one of Britain's greatest exports. The glamour girl turned international pop star says, "When my mum sent pictures of me into the paper when I was 16, I never thought I'd conquer the world, but 3 decades later my book is being published in dozens of different languages and here I am." After yesterday's tales of sexual assault, betrayal and national humiliation, Sam, who publishes her autobiography this week, opens up on her dealings with Colombian drug cartels, the most shocking sight she's ever seen at one of her own concerts, and how she nearly ended up living next door to Margaret Thatcher. Her life has taken her from Hugh Hefner's Playboy mansion in Beverly Hills to the killing fields of Bosnia, but it's hard to beat Sam's tales of drug-fueled excess in the Colombian cocaine capital Medellin. "We were touring in South America, which was an amazing place but very, very scary in parts. When we arrived in Colombia, George Bush's war on drugs was going strong and no international stars were performing there, so when I arrived there were 10,000 people at the airport. They were so happy that someone from England had gone there and were saying, 'Sam Fox, she's not scared.' I got quite emotional and felt like the Beatles when they all started jumping in the limousine. After we'd done 3 shows, this very serious-looking guy came up to my tour manager, who by this point has developed a very serious cocaine habit, and asked if I'd perform at his daughter's 21st birthday the following night for $50,000, about £37,000. He then literally handed over the money in cash there and then. I didn't really think about where the money must have come from. I just thought he was a very rich man who wanted a gig for his daughter, but in retrospect I guess it's pretty obvious what his business must have been. And for all I know he might have been Pablo Escobar. Who knows?" Then, just like a scene from Netflix's Narcos, Sam was taken to a huge house guarded by men with machine guns, past petrol pumps dispensing tequila, where she then sang for the birthday girl, drove round the estate on quad bikes and horses, then enjoyed quite an interesting night. Days later the tour manager, who had been increasingly unable to resist the Bolivian marching powder, got his dates confused and Sam ended up turning up a day late for a show in Bolivia. Despite issuing a public apology wearing the Bolivian national costume, the incensed promoters then kept Sam, plus her instruments and her entourage, hostage until a $100,000 ransom was paid in cash. "I called my dad and he ended up flying all the way from England with the cash in a briefcase and paying up. We then did a gig for free, got all our gear and passports back and fled to Panama." Equally dangerous, but less drug-fueled, was Sam's visit to war-torn Bosnia in 1993 to entertain the British troops. En route to the military base, Sam's bulletproof car came under attack from snipers with machine guns, and after 10 minutes of uninterrupted firing, she thought her time was up. It's very weird what goes through your mind at life or death moments, but I honestly thought I was going to die, and my first thought at that moment, even though I was lying face down on the floor of the car, was, I hope I get shot in the arm, not in my bum, so I grabbed the helmet the driver had given me and protected my bum with it. Sam's other more famous assets, which measured 34D in her heyday, are still what she's best remembered for, although her insurance policy on them has long since expired. I did have the protected for £500,000 each in the 80s, and I wasn't allowed to sunbathe topless in the midday sun nor bizarrely do any fire eating. I remember Des O'Connor saying to me, "I've never had £1 million in my hands," and I said, "Well, you're not going to." At times Samantha's life has been surreal, and never more so than during a concert in Delhi, where the male fans had an unusual way of showing their appreciation. I was doing a gig in front of 70,000 people when all of a sudden all of these bog rolls started raining down on me. Then I realized they weren't toilet rolls but actually turbans, and it was a local tradition to throw them if you're enjoying the show. Things got more bizarre though when I suddenly noticed that all the men were lifting their long shirts, known as cutters, to expose their willies to me, which apparently meant they loved me or fancied me. So there I was trying to remember the words to my songs with 70,000 willies doing the propeller in front of me. It was the most Willies I've even seen in my life, and I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. There was also a lot on display during a 1987 trip Sam took to the raunchy Jamaican adults-only, clothes-optional resort of hedonism with the American rock band Bon Jovi to film some links for MTV. Bon Jovi kept their pants on, although Richie Sambora did take me and my dad, who also came along, to a hash house where Dad got so stoned he had a bad trip, reveals Sam, who had to fight off some jealous stares from John Bon Jovi's girlfriend, who didn't take too kindly to her rock star beau ogling Sam playing in the pool in her bikini. I was on the pill at the time and all the estrogen had made my breasts twice their normal size, so I could feel him staring at me. Soon after the Caribbean jaunt, Sam began an on-off affair with seemingly long-haired Kiss guitarist Paul Stanley, 14 years her senior. After nearly trashing his minimalist Central Park apartment by vacuuming up his curtains, she then had to cope with an unusual problem between the sheets. We'd had to wait a while to consummate the relationship, as I had to have my wisdom teeth removed, but after we finally did it I ran my fingers through his hair and accidentally pulled out his hair extensions as he got out of bed. I didn't want to be lying there naked holding them when he came back in, so I just chucked them under the bed, and when he walked back in with breakfast I just smiled and went, "Hi Paul." Samantha's other main rival for column inches in the 80s was Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, who almost became an unlikely next-door neighbor. Way back in the early 1980s I was seeing a guy in South London and I went to look at a house in Dulwich. They'd just built these beautiful homes with gates, and because at that time I was being constantly followed by the paparazzi, I thought it would be a great place to live. So I viewed it and I liked it, but next thing I knew, Maggie Thatcher bought the one next door to the one I was going to buy. So I thought, I can't go and live next door to Maggie Thatcher, my life will be worse. I won't have any privacy, and plus I'll have Dennis looking over the fence at me while I'm sunbathing asking to borrow some sugar.